Welcome, and thank you everyone for that introduction. Thanks Miles and Mark for those words. I'm delighted to be here today from Birmingham, so regions represented strongly today on our panel as well. This panel is all about skills and where we look for our skills. We are looking to make sure that the talent that exists across our regions and ensure that firms are really thinking about how they can boost their skills, their talent, by not just thinking about where they're based, but are thinking across the country what talent might be there, and how that talent may want to stay locally, may decide that for family, for other commitment reasons, that moving to London, moving to the big cities may not be the right choice, and how we can make sure we can still harness that talent wherever it might be. We also are going to be looking at some examples of collaborative working, of how successful organisations have been managing that across the regions, and what initiatives hopefully you can pick up and use in your own organisation. So big welcome to John, Tamar, Fraser and Pat to our panel. Thank you very much. I'm going to start with you, Tamar, because simply because you're also from the Midlands, so with my bias continuing. Tell us about the work of the Phoenix Group and what it's doing across the Midlands, collaborating regionally and really developing talent and looking at retention too.
Oh, thank you ever so much for having me here today to tell you a little bit about what Phoenix Group is doing. So we're looking really to attract and retain diverse talent. We have got a presence in the Midlands. We have an office there with about 700-ish people that are there. We want to have a larger role to play in the local area in Birmingham. It's a very rich and diverse part of our country, and one where we can see there's so much potential to also make a really important societal impact, to provide opportunities into financial services for those that might not necessarily have ever thought about careers in financial services before. So three things that we're doing at the moment. We've got a really good career ready programme where we look to attract young people into our business and give them 4 weeks of paid work experience alongside lots of coaching and mentoring to look at the skills they might need for long-term careers in FS to make better decisions about what they might do at further education. It's having a really big impact, and we've got great response rates from doing that. The second one is opening up work experience to people of all ages. So rather than just targeting the younger age groups, we're looking at people of any age who are looking to get work experience and get back into employment. Working with schools and job centres to find the right sorts of people to want to come along to take part in that. And we've launched a digital careers platform that starts to talk about the sorts of roles there are and break down some of the barriers to people entering into financial services, which gives things like careers advice, ideas about roles, professions, stories of people doing different jobs and different skills that are needed for those. And then the final one that I just wanted to touch on is we are running a campaign called Careers Can Change, where we're really looking at supporting people to become career changers with longer working lives, with people living much longer in our society. We need to make sure that work is available and accessible to people and that people have the opportunity to switch careers. So Careers Can Change is a programme that we work on with partners who provide people access to things like learning digital skills, switching careers into things like teaching, but really gives people the opportunity to think about what another career might look like. We're rolling that out actually as a small plug at a big event that we're going to run with the DWP and the Phoenix Group on the 20th of March in Birmingham, where we're going to be looking at people who are currently out of work, specifically over 50s, who want to get back into work, and we'd love people to come and showcase in Birmingham more of the roles that are available, find career pathways back into work.
Fantastic. So this is about the full age range, and interesting you talk about work experience. People naturally think of young people at school and so on, but that just giving that opportunity to people of all ages must be quite significant change and difference you're seeing.
We've had some remarkable stories from when we've run this up in Scotland around our Edinburgh office, where people that were out of work came along to a big jobs fair. We had many different organisations represented there, and we also ran a week-long Ready for Work programme ahead of people applying for roles. The change that it has made to people's lives, over 50s that have joined us, has been absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you. John, tell me about the Yorkshire and Humber Skills Commission that you've been involved in and your work at Yorkshire.
Thank you very
please.
much indeed. About a year ago, I had a number of conversations with people talking about the development of skills that we required in the Yorkshire and Humber region. I guess there is always going to be a little element of competition here because we know that we're up against a lot of extremely interested regions around the country. And I'd also spoken to Mark Hoban, who was the previous speaker, who, as you probably all know, had created and led the Financial Services Skills Commission nationally under the auspices of the TheCityUK. And so we decided that we would have this project for the region, Yorkshire and Humberside, and we would gather together people from the local authority, policymakers, the educationists, the universities, the groups like TheCityUK, who are representing the sector as a whole, and then of course most importantly perhaps of all the employers, and there are a number in the region who have a tremendous interest in the development of financial and, I have to say, importantly professional services in the region. So we set up this commission and we gave ourselves a year to produce the report. The report is now available. It's free at the point of acceptance, so I would encourage you to get hold of it if you wish to know what we ended up with. The conclusions really were that in order to identify the skills gap, if you like, we have to recognise that skills are changing. The world of technology obviously is part of it, but some of the softer skills are changing as well. And we need to be able to compete and to win the people that we need. We need to invest in the region. We need to make people aware, because what we found was that there are an awful lot of people within Yorkshire and Humber who have the capacity and the capability to develop these skills, but they perhaps, for some reason or another, are reluctant to get involved. And I think that was an extremely important part. But I suppose the biggest message of all was that when we got together around the table and we started talking as a group with all these people from these various stakeholders, this notion of collaboration, this coming together of all these people to identify what the issues were and then work up a plan to develop the project and work out what we needed. That's the thing that overwhelmingly was the most important conclusion of all. So we now have set ourselves another 12 months in order to try and deliver on some of the issues that we've identified in the report.
So collaboration was critical to getting to driving the initiatives across the region.
Absolutely right, yeah.
Pat, we've heard a lot today about universities and what they can do. We've talked about schools and going into schools and getting to people early. But the colleges have a tremendous role to play in the skills development and to ensure that we have a diverse set of people across the UK really working to take advantage of opportunities in financial service. How does your college support the development of local skills? And can you provide some examples of, again, successful programme the colleges have run?
Yeah. So thank you for having me here. I have to say I'm absolutely brimming with ideas. I've taken loads of notes and I probably won't answer the question properly because I've gone off track. But I think I just want to say a little bit generally about FE colleges, because I think they're often spoken of as the Cinderella of the education education with the schools and the universities. But I think that they are the lifeblood of education, not just for second chances, but for bringing on talent. And just a little bit about this. So there are about 225 colleges in England, and of those, 92% are either good or better, are good or outstanding by Ofsted. 1.6 million students go through our colleges every year, and of those we also have 160,000 apprentices. 30% of students going through the UCAS system come from colleges. So that just gives you, I could go on, but that just gives you a little bit of a breadth of what colleges do and the importance of colleges. So they are often the link between school and university into work, into apprenticeship or further education. So from my point of view, I'm based in the Midlands. I went there for 2 years. I was in London before, and I've been there for 11 because it was so exciting to think about what could this college do for its community. So we looked at what we could do for the community, and we started to work with employers, and we started to listen to what the community needed and what the region needed as well, you know, how we would meet that economy. And from the point of view of financial services, I mean, I was listening, you know, earlier to the apprentices and what the questions were there. And one of the things I thought about was the complexity and the secrecy of financial services. What does it mean? I just wrote down a few: financial advisor, actuary, investment banker, accountant, data scientist, and so on and so on and so forth. I don't think that young people understand the opportunity that there is for them to go through financial services. So in our college, we have business courses, we have AAT, which is one you will all recognise, we have media courses, we have data courses, we have IT courses. But I will be going back to the college to say, let's look at the overarching financial services sector, because this is such a valuable sector and so much that we can do. And in our college, I have to say, we haven't done a lot for financial services because it's seen as boring. And I apologise because I know that you all find it very exciting.
So exciting.
But I'm dealing with 16-year-olds or people coming back into training. And just for a little bit of your point, 58,000 people over 60 are in colleges, retraining. That's over 60. So I think I'll give you an example of the logistics, because that's the one I can give you. So in my region, 120,000 jobs are logistics. So everybody thinks of that as driving a truck, driving a lorry, that's logistics. No, it's huge. So we invited the employers in to meet with us. And we said, what do you need? So we had John Lewis, we had Great Bear, we had all these huge employers, plus some of the smaller employers. What do they need? And what they needed were actually flexible modules within a qualification. So, for example, we thought, well, our business qualifications are pretty good qualifications. You can go to college with, university with them, you can go into work with them, you can go into an apprentice. And we started then to model those around logistics, and we called it Global Logistics Business. So all of a sudden, students are engaging with global logistics, and we have about 60 students now, where previously we wouldn't have had any. Next year, we're oversubscribed by 166 for those courses. So in that region, that is one example of what we've been doing. Also, I heard you talk very much about data, AI, analytics. We saw this coming a while ago, before COVID. And so we started to develop a digital academy, because everybody thinks that young people are digitally astute. They're not. They can do social media, and is it Twitter? I don't know what they're on TikTok, I think. But they can't do other things. So we started to link our main qualifications to digital as well, so that we can develop English, maths, and digital fluency. And then opened a digital academy where within that we've got IT, media, and a plethora of other qualifications. And it dawned on me now that actually, where are our careers advisors saying to people, actually, one of the jobs you could go into from any of those fields is financial services.
Yeah. I mean,
I was just going to build on your point. So we have such a challenge getting people in through the door, and when they get in through the door, they see the amazing job opportunities that there are. When we did the Kickstart programme, we went to the job centre, and we literally had to go and set up a table in the job centre to attract people to come to our jobs. We got like 60 opportunities, and no one was taking them. And when that group of people came in, they were like, we didn't know you could be a project manager or work in HR or go into account. They just really didn't have any idea. So I think it's really important that we all do as much as possible to raise that awareness of the jobs that there are.
And I think, to explore that further later on perhaps in this conversation would be good. But, some of the things we run are law, customer services, digital IT, logistics I've already mentioned. But those courses are already there. And within those courses, the other thing we do is develop the soft skills. So we heard you all speak about that, you know, about it's not just being about financially technical, but also the soft skills and opportunity to reach your potential.
So it feels like, you know, essentially we should be going into the colleges and talking about the skills that we need, modules being developed around the financial services. And I know some colleges are doing that in particular and are very much financial and professional services focused, and they can be designed to try and deal. And as you say, the colleges are national and available in order to drive that.
I don't think there would be a college in the land that wouldn't welcome, you know, the conversation and collaboration from yourselves, and also to get involved in the colleges. Work experience is so important. Industrial placement is so important. You know, to open up your sector so it isn't an enigma, it isn't frightening for them, and it isn't boring, because there are so many opportunities there to do that.
And I probably just add this thought as well, that certainly at Yorkshire Building Society 9 or 10 years ago when I first took on this job, in Bradford, where we have a huge building with a lot of people working there were in fact very few people from the local Asian community. And it took us quite a while to realise that in fact what we needed to do was to get into the local schools and start talking to young people about jobs in that kind of sector. Yeah. And it's taken a long time. And some of these are long-term plans, but I think it's very important to start with schools and help people to understand what the opportunities might be.
Fraser, can I bring you in now, please? Just turning to Scotland. You have been working closely with the Scottish financial enterprise, collaborating with industry, education and government to really look at schools programmes and look at the skills and talents that exist there. What have you found and how has that collaboration worked?
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. I think there's parallels to what Pat's mentioned on the colleges as well as what John's done in the Yorkshire area. If you think of the Scottish financial services ecosystem for a second, the sector is one of the biggest employers in the Scottish economy, and it's the biggest contributor to GVA in the Scottish economy above any other industry. So it's a critically important industry for the Scottish economy, and regionally, if you think of financial services across the UK. We employ about 150,000 people across financial services and some of the related professional services, and on average, those jobs are better paid than other jobs in the sector. So for people in employment, but also young people, you think that would be an attractive career path. One of the recent studies we've done in the Scottish market demonstrates that 60% of 16 to 24-year-olds wouldn't consider a career in financial services, which is galling when you look at the opportunity they don't recognise, but it's also a challenge for the sector. Because if you can't get young talent to move into the sector willingly, you've got to go and fight for them. And if you look at one of the other things that we've seen in the Scottish market, which will be true across the UK, some of the new skills, particularly those that are digital technology related, we need them in financial services, but so do other industries. So the level of competition we find for skills has evolved. So what's happened in the Scottish market over the last couple of years, very much led by Scottish Financial Enterprise, which is an excellent sort of trade body in Scotland, very powerful voice. And one of the benefits we have in Scotland is they convene the industry quite tightly in Scotland. They've done a lot of work with the universities and the colleges in parallel, hooked into some of these government-led programmes into the schools, but very much working with the big employers in the sector, in the industry, to look at what skills does the industry need, and how do we try and get the universities and the colleges to collaborate around about the skills pipeline. Because what we've found is actually if we try and solve at a sectoral level, the estimate is over 3 years, there will probably be about 50,000 open roles. Now, some of that is natural attrition and movement and recruitment. Other are new opportunities, inward investment. There's strong inward investment in the market that creates opportunities, but actually we need to build that skills and talent pipeline, and the universities, the colleges and the schools are all critical. So what we've sought to do in Scotland is try and rewire the ecosystem instead of individual firms, individual colleges or universities trying to solve it for themselves, because the scale of the problem needs all of us to play.
Yeah, fantastic. John, can I come back to you just to talk about, because you've talked about the facing the future, you've talked about what you did regionally. this was a group of people that got together for a skills requirement, but did you think the fact that it was done on a regional basis and not done somewhere else, that wasn't done as locally, was important? Do you think it was important to drive it with people that lived locally, worked locally, had businesses locally?
I think the way I put it is that the Mark Hoban and Claire Tunley, who is now leading the Financial Services Skills Commission nationally and was one of our commissioners locally, is that there is an extremely important connection between the overall national initiative and also what has to happen regionally. And I think that in a way, it was seen, I think, by Mark and Claire that what we were doing regionally was simply a way of getting some tyre on the road and making it happen locally. And it may be that the lessons that we've learned throughout the exercise that we've been involved in is going to benefit other regions as well. I mean, it's very interesting because listening to what you have to say, Fraser, there are a lot of words that you used which are exactly the same as the words that will appear in our report, and most importantly, collaboration. And this comes around time and time again, that you kind of assume people are talking to each other, but in the end you discover that not necessarily as well as they might.
Yes.
And I think that on the ground locally, this is how you can really make things happen with the help and guidance that we've had from the national initiative.
Perfect. Tamar, can I come back to you? And if you were to really pinpoint one thing that you think made your programme successful, the things that you've been talking about at Phoenix, what would it be? What would you say is a really critical part of what you've been trying to drive?
One thing's hard. There are a couple of things. The first thing is to be really clear about the roles and the requirements that you've got. Make sure they're real roles that people can go into, so that people are clear about what that pathway might look for them. And then the second thing, and I think this is probably the most important thing, is that if you're looking to build skills and move people from one role to another, you've got to put some support in. You can't just say that's what we're going to do and then sort of leave people to get on with it. You know, we heard previously about making people having that dual accountability for success. We found the need to put in place support for managers. You know, if you're bringing in people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds into FS, maybe different age ranges, maybe people who've been out of work for a while and who are looking to learn on the job, they need more support. That's why we're doing this, to bring diversity into our business, to bring different sorts of talent, different perspectives in. They need more support. So that means mentoring. That's been really successful, actually. Mentoring makes a really big difference. Buddies. So someone that they could just ask the small questions to, like, you know, what do you do around here if you need to go and get your lunch? Or just, you know, I don't know anything about going into a meeting that's like that. Can you tell me and help me? But actually some very specific support around the outside. So things like, what does it mean to come into an office space? How might you interact with people? Really covering off the basics with people so that they're confident to come in. Because for lots of people, you know, taking on something new where they're going to learn a new skill, they're putting themselves at quite a lot of risk and exposure. So it's about making sure it's really safe for them to try and to learn on the job, to ask the questions, and that doesn't come naturally. So this piece around actually investing in making the programmes work isn't just about signing up to, you know, initiatives that sound great. You've got to put the frameworks in around the outside that give people the support and enable them to see it right through. And I'd add into that, you know, one of the things that makes a difference is hearing stories from other people that have done it. And it was great today, you know, when we heard the story about, you know, learning to be focused on data and data science, but, you know, actually sharing the stories of success, how difficult that is, what people are trying to do, where they've ended up, where they started from, getting people to tell their career stories. These are things that really do make a difference when you're trying to encourage people to try new things and to learn new skills.
Storytelling. I totally agree. Very important for people because they can then imagine themselves on that journey when they think about it. And confidence, I think, is very important. We're talking today about economics and the skill women in certain roles, and I've done some work around numeracy and numeracy confidence. And again, that is something that people have those skills, but the confidence to deliver on them and to work in those areas is something that people underestimate how important the confidence piece is, I think. Fraser, I'm going to come back to you now. You produced a business case for reskilling with the SSC. Can you explain why it's so important to a vehicle to help industry address the skills gap, that reskilling? Before I ask you that, I told you I'd give you a curveball because I always like to. Someone's asked, and so I think you can perhaps bring this in, why do you think some might be reluctant to reskill? Are there practical ways we can challenge this or break down barriers to reskilling when people are reluctant to do so?
Two good questions. Let
Yes.
me do the first one. If I don't deal with the curveball, you can throw it back at me.
Yeah.
So I think the concept of reskilling, we did a business case analysis, which is in the public domain, with the Skills Commission about 18 months ago. But it's, if anything, it's even more valuable and viable than we did it. And one of the things I sort of cross-refer to is within PwC, we do a kind of global survey of chief executives annually, covers about 4,000 CEOs. And one of the things that came out of the last report, which was released in January, is the scale of transformation that businesses are going through. And that's equally true for financial services as other industries. But 78% of the CEOs said they were struggling to transform the way they wanted due to a skill shortage. So if you hold that out there, businesses are struggling to access the skills they want to drive the businesses in the way they think they need to. So what they're then looking at is, well, they want to go and recruit, hire, they want to try and reskill, and a number of them are trying to do so. But equally, they're looking at how do you go and acquire or partner to buy skills that you don't have. All of that is time-consuming, costly, expensive. And when you look in parallel with the fact that, particularly in financial services, a number of the people who are employed have industry knowledge, corporate memory, corporate culture, their roles are moving. So I think of a lot of the customer-facing roles in banking, for example. The role that was 5 years ago isn't what it is today, and it'll be different again in 5 years. People need different skills. So there's a huge opportunity to reskill the talent that exists inside organisations. And the business case that was done between PwC and the Skills Commission very much looked at the comparative cost of, we don't need these skills anymore, so either through attrition or other HC-related process for moving people around, if you lose people and you have to go and hire people, recruit new talent and bring in new skills, the differential cost is actually significant. So if you look at an individual employee over a 3 to 4 year window, the analysis demonstrated the saving was worth about £49,000. Wow. If you multiply that through an organisation, and many in financial services in the UK have 5, 10,000 and more employees, you can quite quickly get into a saving that you measure in the tens of millions. And you're gaining the loyalty of your employees. You're giving them opportunities to do new and different things, which as an employer is valuable. When you bring back to the regional dynamic that we're looking at here, is where you've also got a concentration of people in one location that might have a specific skill set. If you pivot and move that skill set, you might not be able to hire a parallel skill set in that location. You end up with a revised location strategy. Yeah. And that's not necessarily what you want as a corporate financial services provider. The adjunct then around about the challenge of some people looking into reskilling. For a lot of people, it's just difficult to envisage themselves doing a different role. Some of the things Tamar talked about in terms of the support mechanisms you put in place for people. Some of it is they're not given easy access to opportunities to do formal learning and training to give themselves the confidence. And I think one of the things that we see at the moment through the government agenda, which has cross-party support, is moving towards a lifelong learning entitlement for student funding, which will come in the academic cycle 25-26, but it allows people to access student funding to tap back into the colleges and the universities throughout their career, as opposed to today, most graduates go to university once in their early 20s and that's university done. Yeah. So I think that creates an opportunity, but I think we need to really help people have the confidence to believe that reskilling creates a career path and an opportunity for them. And it's something that we are privileged in our organisation. Lots of our people move through their career and do different things. Yeah. When I joined the firm many years ago, and grew up for the first 10 years of my career in a manufacturing environment. I now lead a regional financial services practice. And if you told me that 15 years ago, I'd have laughed, because I'd never touched a financial services client. But having the ability to move around inside an organisation with confidence and that support that Tamar talked about is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we have to get into a mindset where we don't think about the job that someone's in as their permanent position. A lot of young people now, we're talking about portfolio careers, they're not thinking about the job they're in for life. Maybe we should be thinking about people in the organisation and the fact that they should be moving around. We should be giving them secondment opportunities to sit in other seats, to experience other parts of the business that might increase their appetite for looking at how they could reskill in those areas. I mean, I think removing those barriers are really going to be down to us, being flexible in our approaches when we come to the workplaces.
And I think it's also about the values of the organisation, frankly, about the culture and the way that you are towards your staff and the feeling that they have that they're going to be supported and reskilled during their career.
Yeah. Pat, can I come back to you just about how the sector, the financial services sector, can really help colleges engage in this collaboration, really drives that? What would you say to this audience today in terms of your ask, really, of addressing
I'm happy
this?
to answer that question. Can I just respond a little bit to just sort of thinking about what's being said? And I think one of the things we're sort of missing, we have local skills improvement plans, which are local, and colleges respond to those, you know, so whatever your priorities are in your region. But actually it strikes me that a national skills strategy and a workforce strategy combined with lifelong learning would actually answer some of the questions that we have and some of the issues that we have. So I think that's important to keep that in our minds, you know, and an apprentice system that works and a common curriculum that works and a tertiary provision between schools, colleges and universities, because that would make it seamless. And some of the things we're talking about here, the challenge is there that it's almost a postcode lottery, and it's initiatives that have been taken by individuals rather than the national initiatives. So I think that's important. So you asked me what, well, you can do loads. The first thing you can do is contact your local colleges. I'm serious. They want to hear from you. You can do practical things like offer a masterclass. We do something called Ignite the Spark in our college, and we invite different sectors in so that we can ignite the spark of passion and motivation and ambition for our students to think about that. So working with local colleges will be really, really useful, and make them your friends. We need information. So we need information about the detail of what you need. And we also need some flexibility, which I know we have to ask from the government. And, you know, there is political risk because there's a lot of reform in the system. But you have influence as a body to influence policy. So we would ask you to start to influence that policy so that we can have more flexibility on qualifications and reforms, because we are constrained. But one of the things you can do is start to work with your local colleges and also get involved in the curriculum. They want to hear what it is you want in the curriculum. And they may not be able to put a whole qualification in because of an awarding body criteria, but they can put modules in, and they can do enrichment, and they can do bite size. And, you know, let's ignite the spark throughout the country for financial services. So I could go on forever, but I think that's enough to answer that particular question. And I do implore you to contact your local colleges. And if any of you want to join my board of corporation, we're always looking for financially astute people. And one other thing to think about is to unpick maths and finance. We have a fear of maths, and many students find it difficult, you know, to be fluent at maths. But unpick maths and finance. That is something else, I think, that could be done on a local level and a national level.
Thank you. I have got some questions on the iPad, but is there any questions in the room before I go to the iPad? There's a question over here. Yeah, no, it's mic there.
Question. The statement I've been using, and you're going to know what the statement is that I'm going to say, and Claire. I'm on a bit of a personal campaign. with this statement that I say, you cannot be what you cannot see. I would like to ask the panel, what are you doing to address, as well as skills, but ethnic diversity within the sector? Because when I come into this room and I look to the left, I look to the right, I'm like, wow, what's going on here? So that's the challenge I want to bring to the room. And I just want to bring a thought. And I don't know if the financial sector is ready for this. But I think young people, especially if you want to get the next generation, are very visual these days. And the benefits of being a part of the financial industry are massive. Like the type of jobs you can get and some of the money that I know some people earn in here is good. But I think young people are more inspired about what you can do once you start earning a certain thing. And I'm seeing from my charity head on that young people kind of like get attracted to kind of like industries like sport or music because they're seeing what they would call the drip, the bling. And I know a lot of you like do have drip and you do have bling, you know, the Range Rovers coming out of the city. And I was thinking if you could think about like doing flashy music videos of you landing in your helicopters, going to your meetings in the Range Rover and say, come and join the financial industry. I mean joking, but I do think there's a new way you could market the industry to show that there's actually beneficial social mobility benefits to help you change your life. So there's a few thoughts I want to just throw into the meter.
Can I come back on that? I think that's a really good question. Just a little bit about colleges. 27% of the 1.6 million students that go to college every year are from an ethnic diverse background. And the skills gap and the outcome backs are quite small. So the outcomes for those groups compared to the larger groups are actually, the gaps are closing on that. And so when I speak to my college now, I would say about maybe 35% are from ethnic groups. They weren't previously when I went there before, but I worked in London where that fabric was in every college in the city. And one of the things I say to them is, you are the leaders of the future. So I think, it's about, you just said it's visual for them, and of course it's about money as well. But it's about being the leaders of the future. And I see them sit up and they think, what is she talking about? Because nobody has started to set that expectation with us. So I think that does happen in the majority of colleges, but it's how we link that to the sector.
Yeah.
Look, we've spoken about this before, Nathan. I think this is a really big challenge for us in financial services. We've got to open our doors to different talent and make it a really attractive place to be. And then we've got to help that talent to progress through all levels. We can see in our own, we're building a race and ethnicity action plan because to address the exact point that you raised, we've got lots of diversity in our business, but not at the senior leadership level. And it's something that we're addressing, and it's about understanding what the barriers are to progression. It's about making sure that the right support is in place. It's making sure that pipelines of talent can come into your business at all different levels. And it's about being an attractive employer, showing the benefits of employment here, about role modelling. And there's an awful lot in there. There's a lot of work to be done if we are genuinely going to make financial services diverse. And we must, because we talked about the impact of our industry. It has a massive impact for UK PLC, and we've got to make it an industry that's attractive to keep people wanting to come and join it for the future. Yeah. So, there's lots to do. I think lots of people in this room are working on the same things, but we could collaborate more because there's lots of great initiatives that are running, and our combined sort of powers together could make a much bigger difference in regions, nationally, for sure.
I think
beg your pardon.
I think the role modelling, or at least the sense that if you're going to join an organisation like Yorkshire Building Society in Bradford, that you're not going to be on your own. I mean, it does take some time, but people gather where their friends are. Yeah. And if they see their friends joining organisations like Yorkshire Building Society, then that has a domino snowball effect. And I think that's a very important aspect of it all.
I know people that we see have gone to great lengths to set targets for this sort of thing, and especially where you set up in Bradford as well, your academy.
Bradford's a good example that John and I were talking about before we started. So the firms focus significantly on social economic factors and social mobility, because we strongly believe that we can't change some of the things you're referring to unless you start at the bring people through, bring them into the industry, bring them into the profession. But we opened an office in Bradford, which is an area of lesser socioeconomic conditions across the UK, deliberately created an employment hub where we didn't have an office. That's been successful. We've grown that, and we're about to move into a new office in Bradford to bring in more people and more talent. And it is just about, we've got to make steps. And if we all can make steps, as Tamar says, across the industry, we'll get to a better place. Unfortunately, we can't do it like that because it's a difficult problem.
I'm sure they're all going to take away the bling point that you've made as well. I'm sure that's something they can all work on. We are near time. Really interesting topic. I'm sure the panel will stay around, so if there's any other points you want to raise. But thank you very much, John, Tamar, Fraser and Pat, for your time. Thank you very much.